Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not to Comic Book. This being the show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Vagrant Queen. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Literally picking up where last episode left off, I was thinking like, man, did they get robbed? It's like, no, apparently their ship got taken, it got towed, and I was like, because later on, I'm skipping around a tiny bit, but like, at the end, they were talking about all the charges that were like, or like the parking tickets and stuff like that. I was like, that's BS, right? Because that's why I was like, oh, I didn't even cross my mind that it got towed the way the guy was looking. But I guess it's like when he pulled up the ship stuff, it's like, oh, there's a lot of parking tickets. I guess because they've just kind of like illegally parked a lot of places and just kind of ignored stuff. It might not even been Aleda that did that. It might have just been like Isaac who did that the entire time. Or to be fair, not unless this is stuff that like Aleda's kind of like done since her and Isaac went their separate ways, you know? Maybe, I don't know. But nevertheless, basically, they have to take a train to get to where their ship has been towed, to the impound. And everyone loved Isaac being like, "Oh, this is some kind of scam that you guys kind of have running." He's like, I respect the hustle essentially. So, but obviously, you know, May is trying to reach out to like, you know, Aleda one more time. It's like, please don't. But Aleda's just like, this was all kind of a mistake and shouldn't have happened. And so she kind of walks away. So they're on separate parts of the Sunshine Train. And so she ends up, you know, kind of wanting to drink to herself, and the entire time is kind of thinking about the past. And I think that's such an interesting element to her episode, because I was wondering if we were going to get insight into everything that went down, like, you know, how she ended up becoming a scavenger she did. I think probably at the end of the day, maybe that'll be something they'll tackle. Maybe, you know, maybe it'll kind of eventually could potentially do like Arrow, where you like every once in a while you really heavily pop into certain key moments in that time frame. But it might not be that type of thing. It's just like, we know that's what she needed to do to survive. That might be all they do, and just kind of leave it up to your own imagination type of situation. Maybe not. Whatever the case may be, she runs into someone that's like, "Oh, I know you. You used to run with that dude. What's his name?" It's like, "I don't run with him anymore." It's like, "Oh, cool, I got a job." She's like, "I'm not interested." But then later on, she finds out the job is on Areopa, so she's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna take this job." And he's like, "All right, cool beans." And the poor dude that wanted the job at first, but the lady's like, you snooze, you lose, because she knows Aleda's kind of like, oh, like, I wanted her on the job in the first place, so now her, I don't need you. So, to the point, Aleda ends up jumping off the train as part of the job, and we'll kind of circle back to that. But at the same time, like, May and Isaac were trying to find seats, and then, like, there's this lady that's like, oh, hey, and, you know, and Isaac's like, no, I'll find my seat. You enjoy yourself up here. And May sits down with this lady, and they really, really hit it off. And I think this is so interesting, because for so long it just seemed like, okay, Aleda has feelings for May, but it seems like May's just kind of like a very free spirit. So it's like, I got love for everybody. It's like she didn't want to. It seemed like she didn't really want to be tied down. But then like she's like, oh, you want to go? She's like, oh, you mean like a date? And she's like, yeah. It's like, okay. And then the lady's leaning in, but May's like, I can't do this. And it's like, oh, because I think in that moment she realized, she's like, holy crap, I like Aleda, like, holy shit, you know? And it's like, and she's like, someone else. She's like, yeah. So it's like, you know, she's decided to, you know, go try and track down Aleda. Sadly, by that point, Aleda was already, well, she had just jumped off the train after, May had found out. But I thought that was just such an interesting thing, kind of shift. I mean, to be fair, I mean, the opportunities haven't presented themselves, because I'm about to say we haven't really seen May kind of flirting with anyone else. But to be fair, it's like, well, they haven't really been around anyone else. But like all this time, it's like, you know, it's like, oh no, like, you know, obviously Aleda means more to her. At the same time, Isaac sits beside this lady, and she's just kind of annoyed by Isaac. And he's just kind of like, oh, are they going to turn off this music? It's so annoying. He's eating stuff from the back. He's chewing loud and smacking. And he's like, do you want any? And she's just kind of annoyed by him. And at the same time, Lazaro, you know, he was getting a cut by like a stylist. But the stylist messed up in some shape or form. And Lazaro was having home dude chop his fingers off with scissors. And so trying to prepare himself, he's got the admiral he left alive, got her reading a speech. And so basically he gets on television, like public space television, just like, oh my God, look at how amazing, you know, it's like the fact of the matter is the Republic was this, I'm going to take it down. We're going to pull down all the borders and separation. And the moment he's like, bring all the leaders here, I want to join. I'm like, okay, right. Obviously the Stirzad has a limit. So what you're going to end up doing is basically drawing in every leader from every planet, you mind control them, and then literally rather than having to worry about, oh, every single planet is going to be completely under my control, you get the leaders under your control, in turn making said planets under your control. So it's a little bit of an easier step, but it's like, that's what that's supposed to be and what that's supposed to represent. And it's like, okay, cementing his place and everything, like, oh, I'm, and it seems like some people, not everyone, but some people are celebrating, because obviously it's a thing of like, he's kind of doing a politician thing of like, I'm saying the right thing to get your vote type of situation. I mean, sadly, at the end of the day, your vote doesn't matter because I got complete and utter control of you. It's almost like, what's the pretenses? To be fair, not everyone can be controlled, once again, because it has a range and everything. So like, he'd have to bring a lot. But I'm like, why keep the pretenses with the people there in the crowd? Like, you can easily just get them. But I mean, I guess it's like, maybe it's sweeter to be like, oh yeah, I got them on my own, and then I'm gonna brainwash them and completely control their minds. Regardless, at the same time, like, Isaac's talking to the lady that's beside him, it turns out she's being hunted by like bounty hunters, and I love that it's like, oh, we're supposed to keep this quiet, but how are we supposed to find her? Like, everyone's got helmets, and the lady, she's like, yeah, I totally understand. You're right. I was like, all right, and they literally start shooting off shots, and it's like getting everyone to take their mask off, and so Isaac is with her, and she's like, they're after me. And so Isaac is like, oh, like, it's like, oh, the bounty said that she needs to be alive. And Isaac's like, what bounty? She's like, whoa, so obviously you know nothing about the bounties, and why are you he's like, this is a hostage situation. It's like, well, what do you want? He starts naming stuff that they wouldn't get. Like, I think at one point he asked for maple syrup, and he's trying to figure out, like, okay, why are you so important? She's like, I'm a doctor. He's like, I mean, not a doctor, a scientist. Is like, right, this is about the Steerzad and everything like that. So, but I love just like the complicated situation that, like, as that's happening, a May just walks in and is like, what the hell is going on? And it's like, wait, Isaac? And he's like, oh, crap. Because at first he tried to call Aleda. It's like, I got friends. I got a badass. Like, he's going to come here, kick their ass. Aleda took off her comm, and it's just like, he's like, I got another person that can do it. He calls up Amay, but Amay ended up giving her comm to that lady so that she could find out about, Aleda. So and then the woman, the scientist he's protecting is like, you don't actually have any friends, do you? I'm just like, oh, that's so sad, because it makes it seem like your friends aren't real. But it's like, that's one of my friends. But the fact is, Amay, it's like, oh, Isaac, I don't know what's going on here. But then they hold her hostage and be like, okay, give us the scientist or we kill this friend of yours. So it's like, okay, how do we handle this situation? So, and then like the sunshine people on the train show up, and they have this very happy disposition, because there was that whole thing of like, I love at the beginning, be like, show us your ticket or we're going to shoot you. And there was like, oh, and they're like, no, we're not going to, but seriously, you need to show us your ticket, And then he shows up, and Isaac's like, oh my God, they tried to hold hostages, and then they end up shocking them and everything. So our trio jump off the train. But what's really interesting, though, is the scientist, she gives us a little more insight into the Steerzad, kind of understanding, like, the reason why, even though he's not a royal, doesn't have royal blood, the reason why Lazaro can use it. Because the moment she activated it, now it can work for anyone. So it's kind of like, it's almost like if you pulled out if King Arthur pulled out Excalibur, but meaning that the moment he touched Excalibur, that means the moment it's out of the rock, anyone can take it from him and use it. It's kind of that situation. It's kind of a weird metaphor to use, I know, sorry. But it's interesting. And also, like, obviously he can still only use a fraction of it. And I'm curious because, like, obviously the device he's using allows him to kind of tap into some of the power. But I'm curious, like, would Aleda need that at all? Like, if she could just probably hold the Steerzad at its own and just... Well, to be fair, she had it in her hands, but she couldn't. But to be fair, she doesn't have the full scope of the power. I mean, at the time, she wasn't bleeding, so I'm curious, like, maybe if she bled and touched it at the same time would something happen? I mean, it should probably just be a situation of just her holding it should be enough. So you probably do, even she does need the device to make it work, unless you probably know the ins and outs of the whole thing. I did like it, though, that when it was all said and done, because it's like, wait, where did Aleda go? She left. It's like, yeah, she took some other job and bounced. And, Isaac was almost hoping, like, everything, like, he thought, like, given enough time, maybe things would get, he's like, because she's like, what, you thought a trainer was going to fix everything? He was just like, yeah, but I thought it'd give her enough time to maybe, forgive me and everything. And obviously for Amay, she blames herself because she's like, I didn't fight hard enough to keep Aleda here. But he was like, no, that's not on you. Obviously, this is 100% on me and everything. And I was the scientist with him. I was like, can we just kind of stop all this like mushy shit and just go? And so obviously the bounty hunters show up again. Then at the same time, Republic reinforcements show up. They end up killing her partner. I was like, oh, that sucks. I thought we'd spend more time with these bumbling buffoons. Because I was like, we only get introduced you to this episode. I mean, I guess that kind of shows you're not kind of important, but still, it's like, oh, you made your escape from the Sunshine Train and everything. You killed the two guys and you bounced too. It's just like, oh, and she lost her partner, and because they were like, yeah, the Republic soldiers was like, if we're doing all the hard work, why would we kind of pay you? So. But it turns into a situation. I like that weapon the scientist was using. Basically, it's like she's like, throw away your guns, and Isaac's like, do we have to make it that easy for him? It's like she's like, just do it. And so the weapon, I guess it kind of like malfunctions everyone else's weapons. Plus, it can fire. And then like I love May being like, oh, they. I just thought it was kind of interesting. At no point did you just. I mean, I guess because of what went down, you can't really pick up your guns. I just think it's. I felt like that would be the opportunity. Run, pick up your guns, and start blasting everyone. But May picks up 2 rocks. Isaac picks up a stick. He's like, and that's my friend. And he falls after her, slow motion, blood everywhere, kicking ass, taking names type of situation, or taking ass, kicking names, type of situation. So sadly, the scientist gets taken, and I thought it was kind of sweet because like Isaac was like, "You run," and May's like, "I'm not gonna leave you behind." He's like, "You run, I'll draw their attention," and he does. But then like. He's done. It almost looks like at one point, if you look, it almost looks like he's doing jumping jacks to avoid the shots. But the other bounty hunter, she shows up because it's like that's for killing my partner. So like, all right, let's get out of here before she changes her mind. I'm curious if they're gonna like cross paths with her again. Maybe not. But regardless, I thought that was really interesting. At the same time, Aleda, like I talked about before, like the whole bouncing back and forth between her past, like obviously like 8 years ago, like right after she had watched her mom die. What's also interesting, we see her mom got shot in the gut. Her mom didn't even get shot in the head. So it's like not less as that's what I thought was interesting, because remember when she was tripping, she saw the bullet go in her mom's head. It was like not even her mom's stomach, it was in her head. So I'm like, did he go for a headshot afterwards to make sure she was dead? I don't know. Obviously that could have just been all in Aleda's head, like, oh, this is the most terrible thing you could imagine seeing and being shown it. But regardless, the entire, like, she thinks back to, like, obviously what was her mom's final words, don't trust anyone. So there's someone on the comms that's like, hey, we want to pick you up, we don't know where your location is, but Aleda doesn't talk to him. She thinks about it, but she doesn't. More and more time passes. Like, what was it, eventually it was like 2 days, and then a couple days, and it was like a full week, and I think it was like 2 weeks or so. And she didn't talk to him, but eventually, like, she would listen because he'd constantly contact her. And so eventually she talked back, a couple days of them back and forth, him telling funny stories, her laughing. But it's just like, okay, like, you don't want to tell us, it's okay, you can trust me, I know it's hard. And she eventually says, like, oh, my name is... Eventually saying that her name is Aleda. And I thought it was, because I was so curious. I was like, is this going to end up being like, because I was like, what's going, I figured it was going to play out the way it did to a certain, but I didn't expect it to kind of, I wasn't sure. I didn't expect it to be Republic people at the end. I thought that was kind of a nice twist, because you felt like it had to be someone, but I'm like, would they really be stringing her along this long? But then I was thinking, like, maybe it's someone else. Maybe it's like, oh, this is some group of people that find her. She trusts him for a little bit, but then eventually they screw her over type of situation. That's what I was kind of thinking. Like, kind of a little Yandu-ish from Guardians of the Galaxy. Granted, that was kind of like, had a job to do, but then like, kind of said F you to ego, so... I kind of thought something like that before it to turn out like, because he's like, yeah, just turn on your location. She does for a little bit, but then she gets paranoid because she remembers what her mom said. Like, it was just her instinct kicking in. She turns it off and she's like, I'm sorry, I can't. He's like, Eldaya, and she's like, I never told you my name. And then she shuts off the comms, and it turns out it was a Republic talking to her. But like I said, I thought that was so interesting, because it could have easily been a number of people, but considering what went down, like, who would be looking for her immediately after that? None other than the Republic. So it's not that much of a twist, but it was just like, I liked how it was executed, because I wasn't sure what direction the message was supposed to be set up, and like, oh, she told not to trust people, and she did trust someone, and then it ended up backfiring. Or was it a situation of, I mean, obviously, like, because you also know the situation of trusting someone, it kind of backfired and you stop trusting people again. Like, we know that was the Isaac situation. So, like, there were just many routes I think they could have approached that. And I just thought, like, it was a very interesting way they went about approaching it, especially how they broke it down over the course of the episode like that. I even love she got to, like, where the ship is, and the dude's like, oh yeah, take this and everything. It's small enough for one person. It's like, oh, you're from Europa. And she's like, yeah, I got to go back to finish something. And he was just kind of like, yeah, sure, okay, whatever. There was also the situation with Isaac and Amay that I thought was kind of, I think that's like the whole, like, because it's like the whole engine conversation again, because the fact is she's like, yeah, I think, you know, Aleda meant more to me than I really realized. And he's like, well, you know what we can do? We can go to Areopa and we can stop that bastard ourselves, just the two of us. And it's like, yeah, she's that, I forgot what the term Isaac kept saying. Instead of saying, because I think it's like either it was spark plug or spark plug wasn't the right word. He kept saying the wrong thing. He was like, damn it. Because she was like, that's not what I was describing. But it's like, yeah, maybe she's more than that. And he's like, no, I got it. I understand what you're talking about. They make their trip to the impound. Turns out the ship was taken. I was like, wait, what? I was like, it's supposed to be here, but it's not. I'm like, what the hell is that all about? At the same time, Aleda is getting closer to Areopa, and I'm like, okay. I was like, are you really? Because I kept halfway expecting the entire time, like, are you going to turn back around? But I was like, I guess she's not. I was like, oh, she's about to go full. And then, but when they were like, oh, we're going to go do it ourselves, I was like, oh, so she's going to get to Areopa. Then eventually, like, Isaac and Amay are going to get to Areopa, and they're going to meet like that again. I thought kind of a little bit like, spoilers, final season of Preacher. I thought kind of a little bit like that. If you've seen the final season of Preacher, you know what I mean. Like, I thought it was kind of going to be something similar to that, but regardless. Nevertheless, in the grand scheme of things, though, I thought that, because like the moment they see the ship and everything, I'm like, holy crap. I was like, oh, it had to be Winnibot. She must have like flown the ship or something like that. But then Aleda starts walking. I was like, wait, what? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, holy shit. I was like, I didn't expect that. And for her, she was kind of, you know, a little apologetic about everything. She's like, yeah, not everything is okay and not everything has been forgiven. But the fact of the matter is, for her, it's like being alone, it's worse than kind of, you know, it's like despite the complicated situation there, and like she'd rather be with them than kind of do all this alone. And I think that's such a sad thing, because like she was so bound by what her mom's final words of don't trust people. Like, of course it's going, I mean, granted, the circumstance you came from would already create that, but that plus your mom's final words make it, yeah, you would obviously have trust issues. Granted, it kind of helped save you in that instance. So obviously you'd eventually get so used to it, because even she had said it. She's like, I got so used to being alone that I felt okay, but now she didn't feel okay anymore being alone, because she missed them like crazy, because they are a team and they are a squad. So she's like, you know, I'm just asking, can I come aboard your ship? And I love Isaac being like, it's your ship, buddy. And Amaz's like, it's our ship. I'm like, yay, that's so cool. She's like, so like, let's get off this planet. But at the same time, we see like there are parking officers who are hunting our trio, because they're like, oh, they're not going anywhere. So I love that. It's like, if you took, I guess, like a parking maid and made it like a more like bounty hunter-ish job of like, oh, you didn't pay your parking tickets, you're going down type of situation. It seems like that's what they're setting up. So I'm very, very interested to see where that takes us. I had left it off that obviously we had the thing with Lazaro and the scientist. She has, like, out of any scientist, she probably has the most answers, but obviously a lot of them probably have some idea. She has the most idea how the Stirzad works. So now she's like, yeah, I'm going to show you everything there is. So obviously, once again, this is the most powerful thing in the universe. So obviously he's still only using a fraction of its power. And I'm curious, is mind control on a mass scale the only thing it can do? Like I said, ergo kind of like your Kilgrave from Jessica Jones, or your Genesis from Preacher. It's like, is that the only power? Like in the case of Kilgrave, he found a way to boost his powers. Is that all it will do once you expand upon it? Or is this just like, oh, him using like maybe like 10% of it allows mind control, but maybe this thing is capable of doing, like, obviously it's capable of doing much more, but is it like, oh, is it capable at 50% of doing wider mind control, or does it have some other ability at 50%? That's the question I'm trying to get across. So we'll ultimately have to wait and see ultimately where all this ends up taking us. I'm actually super surprised to see that they actually came back together. I mean, granted, I think there's only 10 episodes a season, but it's just like I would have expected it to be like way closer to the end of the season, like maybe like at episode 9 for them to kind of patch things up. But obviously, like I said, not everything's okay. Like, I mean, everything's better. There's still some complications, but things are in an okay enough state with, and they can, Isaac can work to, repair his relationship with Aleda, and Amaya and Aleda could, let their relationship grow into, whatever it ends up becoming, so. But like I said, we'll ultimately have to wait and see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.